qui leur tiennent la dragée haute, entre guillemets, en tout cas qui ont une notoriété équivalente. Comment ça se passe?
Yes, in Italy, the situation is more or less like in Europe. The dominance of the US titles and authors is very, very big. It's, I think, around 65–70% of what is published is translated from English. It might change due to years, but normally it's like that. So the situation, especially in the science fiction genre, it's like that by definition and for a very long time. There have been moments when we try to gather the forces and try to propose our books, our stories. The thing is that for a very long time we've been subject to our own greatness, in the sense that we were trying to look at the past instead of looking at the future. So we were writing about the Roman Empire and set it some thousands years ahead. Now with internet, with access to a lot of information, the gap between the scientific information that we can access between Italians and the rest of the world, let's say, it's less and less. So also the novels are reflecting this improvement. There are writers that do write about quantum physics, about biotechnology, about alternative realities, and so the situation is improving, but in a generally decreasing market as we see it in all the publishing sector. So we try to let's say compete in a good way with the major masters, and what I try to do, for example, is running a small cultural project called Future Fiction, which is a definition by Anthony Burgess that was given in the preface of his book, The Wanting Seed and A Clockwork Orange. And I try to scout underrepresented voices from Europe and publish them. And we publish people from Greece, Michalis Manolius, we publish Cristian Teodorescu from Romania, we publish Tom Crossil from Latvia, I publish Olivier Paquet from France. So we put them all together on the same shelf, together with Ian MacDonald or James Patrick Kelly from the UK and the US, saying that we can stand all together. So the situation now is improving. We are improving our English. That means that we can control the translations much better, and we try to offer. I try to collaborate also with European projects like Europa SF, which is a science fiction portal that gives information about conferences and awards and authors and what's going on in Europe, because one of the things that we do miss in Italy, and I guess we miss it everywhere in Europe, is a network of information between all the professionals that are working in the science fiction genre.
Anthony, est-ce que tu peux nous dresser un petit peu le portrait suisse? Là, on l'a compris qu'il y avait des opportunités en ce moment pour des auteurs italiens après une domination tout loin dans le nombre de livres publiés. Comment ça se passe en Suisse exactement? Lisent aussi du Valerio Evangelici, je pense à Luca Massali aussi, enfin, ces gens que nous on a traduit. Qu'en est-il aujourd'hui?
Well, today we have to thank Urania Mondadori, which is the greatest Italian publisher, and since around 25 years they have established a national science fiction award, and Valerio Evangelisti was probably the only writer that from science fiction moved to mainstream and then was published in many other countries. It doesn't happen quite often. I won twice the Urania Award and I'm still fighting and struggling to... I've been lucky to have one novel translated in English and published in the farthest corner of the globe, Australia, but it's still speaking English. So yes, there is a new generation. Of course, we had our own time. We had our own lingua franca, the Latin, where we had the domination of the world, and we spread our culture everywhere in the known world. So now we are, paying, bowing our head to the other masters. But still, there is a young generation of writers that, for example, Tommaso Pincio, they are doing kind of slipstream literary science fiction, let's say. There are Dario Tonani, who's been published in Japan, and some short stories in the US. We have Bruce Sterling living in Turin, and he's kind of ambassador of Italian cyberpunk, let's say. So there is a scene, there are even small vanguard, like the Nexialism, kind of group of people that are putting together different kind of disciplines of ranging from quantum physics to biotech, and putting them together in nice and good novels. The situation, it's dynamic at the moment due to the openness of the digital market. Of course, there's still a kind of discrimination against the Italian writers, because they are considered not so good as the Americans were. But I do think that this is a kind of prejudice that is driven by the market, the power of the big industry to identify who are the best ones and not the best ones, let's say.
Y a-t-il des spécificités thématiques pour l'Italie chez les auteurs italiens?
Well, as I said, it comes from our history. So whether it's the Roman Empire or the Renaissance, I guess a lot of artists are coming to Italy to exploit our cultural heritage and put it in their own scenario. So from fantasy, the whole Middle Age, it's been from France to Italy, it's been there. The long history of Boccaccio and Dante, and going home to Calvino and all these authors have been using the fantastic as a trope to talk about the present time. So we do have this as a normal setting. You cannot avoid talking about our history. The problem is that sometimes I say that we look at the future with our neck. So we should try to turn around and see what Italy would be like. Well, many of the contemporary Italian writers are seeing a grim and very sad future for Italy. I do understand that is a kind of zeitgeist. It's the sense of the time that we are living in a country that is not, doing very well at the moment. So most of the novels are post-apocalyptic or kind of new middle age, where every city is against each other. We do have this many times in novels.
Anthony